up, Prop Nation? It's your boy John here today, back with our conference championship of the NFL. It's between the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. And I'm also going to do the Detroit Lions, who are going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Two awesome conference championship games. It should be really, really good. I'm very excited to dive into these two games as well. What a season it has been. I can't believe that we've only got one more episode to go after this show. We're winding down. It's sad, but it's been a really, really good season for the show, kicking it off for the first year. But do not worry. If you're still needing more props, we can still give those to you. Sully's going to be doing more hockey props. He's doing his bus ride to get $10 and take it to 100 times or something like that. I know Sully's all over it. And then after the Super Bowl, so we'll have an episode in 2 weeks to do the Super Bowl preview, and then we're done with NFL for Prop Nation until August, and we'll be back with the preseason props. But never fear, in between, a couple of weeks, a few weeks after the Super Bowl, I'm going to be bringing you footy props. The footy season will start here in Australia, and that's going to be really exciting. I'm excited to do that as well. So that'll carry us through until forever. So basically, my time off recording will be for the next couple of weeks, and then that's it. And then it's just every week, boom, 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 for another year until this time next year. But it's been awesome. Sully's not here today. Sully is sick, and he just had his birthday gone by. Happy birthday, Sully. Hope you're feeling better. I couldn't leave you guys high and dry, though. So let's get into these two games. We're going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs going to Baltimore. Ravens are favored at -4 at the moment. I saw in one book -4.5 as well. So I think Patrick Mahomes has some fantastic record when covering the spread as an underdog. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about that. And the over-under is 44.5. So there's definitely a world that exists there where the Chiefs are sitting pretty, and I wouldn't mind taking the points there with the Chiefs. The weather, it's going to be 9 degrees at kickoff. It's going to be cloudy. So no chance of rain, though. So should be an awesome playoff game. Don't think there's going to be any snow either to worry about. Injuries for the two teams. So for Kansas City, so Sky Moore's on IR. We won't see him again. Kadarius Toney, he's questionable to play. So if he doesn't play, that's a huge blow for the Ravens, as we like to joke. Ha, 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 ha. And Willie Gay on the defense is questionable as well. So we might see him, we might not. For the Ravens, this is kind of interesting for the Ravens. So Marlon Humphrey and Rock Ya-Sin are both questionable. Those are their two corners. So there could be a bit of success there if one of them can't go, maybe an MVS prop. I'm not actually looking his way. So, but what else have we got here? And then, Sully reminded me as well. So Dalvin Cook is going to be playing in this game. He played in the last game, but you can't actually get any Dalvin Cook lines anywhere, which is really annoying. But that will impact Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, I imagine, to an extent, because there is a Justice Hill prop that I do quite like once we dive into it. Let's start off with the Ravens side of the ball. We'll talk about their season. How's their defense been? It has been a bit sort of hit and miss depending on the matchups. They've been able to stop some quarterbacks. They shut down CJ Stroud. He did not get hit over his 220 receiving prop last week. They were very good against Tua as well. We didn't see them over the wildcard weekend in week 18, obviously, so they had a couple of weeks off. They also had their bye week in week 13 as well, so they've had a fair bit of rest lately, which is putting them in a good spot. Some teams, though, so Purdy in that last matchup, the last time we saw these guys, he went over his passing yards. Lawrence did, Stafford did, but of course, those guys we would expect that they would. And then a few running backs have been able to run on them a little bit. And this is where I quite like this Isaiah Pacheco prop that we'll probably see as well. And even Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I've seen some areas where you can get him at 7 or 8 over rushing yards. I mean, it just takes 1 or 2 rushes for him to do that. So it's not a bad look ahead. The one that I've highlighted, though, is the wide receiver 1 matchup. I really like Rashee Rice in this spot. He's had some phenomenal games over the last however many weeks. We'll get to him in a second. But I think this aligns well for him. I also think this bodes really well for Travis Kelce as well. A lot of tight ends have had success against the Ravens. So mark that one down. Travis Kelce for his receiving props. We'll probably take a look at that as well, even though he himself has been a bit hit and miss. But this is it, man. I think both these teams are going to be going all out. We know the Ravens, they really, really want to win this game and go to the Super Bowl and silence a lot of haters and doubters of Lamar Jackson. And then, of course, the Chiefs. And I wonder if there's a sneaking suspicion that the NFL needs the Taylor Swift Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. We'll see. For the Chiefs side of defense, they've been very good for the most part. L'Jarius Sneed is having an insane season. He's pretty much been shutting down everybody in his path. Only Devontae Adams had success of recent memory since their bye week, and Jaden Daniels. But of course, the GOAT Jaden Daniels is elite in Green Bay. Everyone else has had a really bad go at it. So if anything, Zay Flowers is probably looking in like an underspot, but he's got a low line. He's got 40 receiving yards. Pair that with Lamar Jackson's 210 passing yards. It's just not a spot that I want to hit up. However, I do quite like this Lamar Jackson rushing prop. It's very, very, very high, and it makes me nervous. But we'll see what happens there. And then a few tight ends have also had success against the Chiefs as well as far as catches go. And Mark Andrews is back. He's going to be playing. He's active for this game. So that's going to be really exciting. Will they distribute it between Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews? Not sure. We'll see how that goes come Monday morning. So let's jump into the quarterbacks that we like here. So I'll just say straight up now, there's nothing for Patrick Mahomes that I personally like. He's been really hit and miss all season. He's been really, really up and down. And there's just been absolutely no consistency. There's nothing I want to bet for him. Lamar Jackson is almost in a similar spot. There's been some weeks where you can get him at really low passing yards, like the 210 that we're getting at the moment. But this is where I stay away for the passing yards for Lamar in this spot. I don't see any value in it because the Chiefs have been shutting down quarterbacks in that spot. The one that I like, so 67.5 rushing yards. That's a lot. That's a lot of rushing yards, 10.5 rushing attempts. I would probably go with the 67 rushing yards. He did get over, I think he had 11 rushing attempts last week against the Texans, and he did run all over them. This could be a bit different, but I think in front of their home crowd, he's gonna I'm interested in it. I'm looking that way. And then Patrick Mahomes, yeah, so as we mentioned, there's nothing there. His pass attempts are 37.5. I don't love that. 24.5 for completions. If anything, I'm probably betting the under for that one. And then as far as Lamar Jackson goes for completions, 19.5. Not really looking that way. The 210 is like interesting. Or the 1.5 passing touchdowns. That could actually be a point of interest. He's only missed that since their bye week in week 13 once, and that was week 15 where he did get the one. He's only had like 1 week since week 4 where he hasn't thrown any touchdowns at all. So that is interesting with the over-under at 44.5. Could be something there. Could be a heavy rushing game though. Speaking of rushing, let's get to these running backs. And I already spoke about Justice Hill. He is getting 33.5 rushing yards, and I do like the look of that a little bit. He's gone over his rushing props every week since week 12 except for week 14. Mind you, they were fairly low, and now they're starting to increase. And that in conjunction with Dalvin Cook coming into the game more could be a worry, but he has been playing well. So 33.5 rushing yards I do like. I'm not looking at anything Gus Edwards' way though. So just keep that in mind, even though he has been fairly good. Like if you wanted to, he's getting over half a catch. So if you like Gus Edwards for 1 catch, he has done it plenty of times this year, and he could probably do it again. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, we don't have any Dalvin Cook props at this stage. So that's a bummer. I think there was a stat that I saw that he had more rushing yards in that one game last week for the Ravens than he had in the entire season in games played for the Jets. So, hey, there's a tale of two stories right there. Isaiah Pacheco, as I mentioned, 65.5 rushing yards. I really, really like that prop. He's gone over that every week since week 11, except for week 16, where he just sort of, in general, had a down game. I actually think he might have even gotten injured in that game. And he's been getting a lot of carries. There's only been 2 weeks in the entire season. Since 3 weeks in the entire season, 2 weeks since week 2, where he hasn't gone over his rush attempts prop. It's been sitting around 11.5 for the first half of the season. Vegas must have been getting killed, so they started to increase it. Even when it was up to 14.5, he's still hitting over those, except for that one game I just mentioned. So this is a good spot. Cold weather, Chiefs struggling to throw the ball. Good spot for Isaiah Pacheco. I'm just looking at the Baltimore run defense. Yeah, look, they give it up as well. So that's one that I'm definitely looking at. Let's lock that one in right now. Isaiah Pacheco over 65.5 rushing yards. Sully will be happy to hear that because we've had a lot of back and forth over the years over Isaiah Pacheco. So we'll see how we go there. Oh, sorry. And just speaking of Dalvin Cook, Sully says that if you can find the lines of Cook over 14.5 rushing yards, he'll take that. And if you can find Cook over 7.5 receiving yards, he'll take that as well. And a Dalvin Cook touchdown as well. Look, I support you. I probably am not going to bet it myself, but yeah, go for it, Sully. All right, let's get to these receivers now. And for the Ravens, it's going to be interesting with Mark Andrews back. It kind of puts everything out of whack. He got injured in week 11, and the team has been fairly different since then. Isaiah Likely was playing out of his mind. He was going over his receiving props every single week that Mark Andrews didn't play. So that's really interesting to see. He's down to 21.5 now. So Sully likes, I think Sully's taken Isaiah Likely over 21.5 receiving yards. He likes that. He also likes Mark Andrews over 34.5 receiving yards. I would only take one or the other. I wouldn't take both. If you actually have a look on the season, the only week where the stars aligned and they both, for whatever reason, hit over their receiving props was week 9. And in that game, Zay Flowers did not hit over his receiving props. And I think that something similar to that will happen again. I'm not betting Zay Flowers over 40.5 receiving yards. I'll stay away from that because, like I said at the top of the show, L'Jarius Sneed has been playing really, really well, shutting wide receiver ones down. And Odell Beckham has had basically no production since, what do we want to say, like weeks 9 through to 11. He did in week 14 as well. But outside of that, I mean, he's been pretty much non-existent for the most part. So I don't see why they would need to fire him up here. I think it's going to be a big Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely game. The receiver that I do like, and this is going a bit sneaky now, and it goes against everything I've been saying all year, but Rashod Bateman is getting 20.5 receiving yards. And Rashod Bateman has had over 20.5 receiving yards every week since week 12. So that's an area like, just bear in mind when I'm saying this as well, they didn't play week 18 or wildcard, so there are 2 weeks there that you take out. But I've still got 5 weeks of data there. Even before then, there was a couple of games he missed, but then there was four straight games where he hit his receiving props as well. So there could be some value to be had there. So that's the other one I really like is Rashod Bateman over 20.5 receiving yards. You heard it here first. I can't believe I'm saying that. Let's jump now to the Chiefs. And it has to be said, Rashee Rice, who has gone over his receiving prop line every week since week 12, except for last week, he struggled. But he still had a completely fine game, and they won that game. So I think they're happy about that. Still had 4 catches, which he's also had in every single week since week 12 as well, since week 11, sorry. He's only not hit that prop one time this year. So he's either got it exactly or gone over it every single week, his prop line, except for week 9. It was his one down game. So I see no reason why this would be any different, particularly at the top of the show. We mentioned Marlon Humphrey could be questionable, as is Rocky Sin. So this could be a good spot. And then Travis Kelce has not hit his props at all as far as receptions go outside of the wild card game. So it's kind of like a stay away for me. But having said that, the Ravens have been giving up to the tight end. So hard to say. I'm not putting my eggs in that basket. Same with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Look, if he catches a pass, good on him. But I'm not putting my money on it. And as we mentioned, Kadarius Toney, I'm not sure what's happening with him there. So let's revise this first ticket. I'm going to give you 5 legs. And we'll see how we go. Okay. Lamar Jackson over 65.5 rushing yards. Justice Hill over 33.5 rushing yards. Isaiah Pacheco over 60.5 rushing yards. Rashod Bateman over 20.5 receiving yards. And Rashee Rice over 60.5 receiving yards. I like the Chiefs if you can get them at plus 4.5, I think that's a great number for them. Over under, I think, is exactly where it should be. 44.5. That sounds perfect. I'm not touching that. So that's where I'm at with that game. Let's jump now to the Detroit Lions, who are going to Santa Clara to play the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm a little bit confused. The weather says it's going to be 21 degrees Celsius. That's about what we're getting here in Australia in the middle of summer, is about 22, 23 degrees Celsius. And it's the middle of winter, if I'm not mistaken, in Northern California there. So, all right, conditions will be perfect. Let's jump into this game. The 49ers are -7 at home, and the over-under is 52, and I'll bet it is because there's a lot of juiciness to be had in this game. I think the passing is going to be out of this world. We just talked about the weather. It's going to be perfect conditions. It's going to be beautiful conditions, almost summer, spring-like conditions in the middle of winter. So injuries to look at. Lions are without Jonah Jackson on their line. That's it. San Francisco is completely healthy, though. So both teams are looking fairly good. They're in a good spot. They've both been playing really, really well. I think this is going to be really back and forth, this game. It should be really good to see. Let's jump now to the Lions defense, see how their year has gone. Not great, Bob. They have been giving it up to passing quarterbacks every single week since week 12, except for week 13. Sorry, I should rephrase this. The last 7 weeks straight, all quarterbacks have hit over all of their passing props, basically. Justin Herbert did it as well in week 10. Jordan Love did it in week 12 as well. The only quarterbacks who haven't were Derek Carr and Justin Fields. So, with that information, do what you will. The other one was Aiden O'Connell as well. So, I think this is going to be a great spot for Brock Purdy. Now, his lines, all these lines are insane. They're all really, really high. They're the highest they've been for any player throughout the season, but the over-under suggests that it's going to be an absolute shootout. Lions have been pretty good against running backs, though. Unfortunately for them, they do come up against the best running back of all of them, and I'm not worried there. Receiver ones have had complete success since Lions bye week in week 9. The receiver twos have had a lot of success as well. Up until recently, Chris Godwin couldn't hit his, and Cooper Kupp was shut down. Having said that, the Rams were dispersing the ball to other areas of the field as well, and then Tyler Higbee got that brutal hit. He was injured by Kirby Joseph, and then all other tight ends, though, outside of that one injury, have all had a lot of success since week 13. So great spot for George Kittle, great spot for Brandon Ayuk, great spot for Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey's great, and Deebo Samuel's going to be playing as well. Wow. Okay. Getting to the San Francisco side of the ball, their defense has been pretty low-key, actually not great. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of props have gone over more than you'd probably expect. Now, Sam Howell had a bad game in week 17. He couldn't hit his. And then last week, Jordan Love in the torrential rain couldn't hit his passing yards. Kyler Murray struggled. But outside of that, a lot of quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith. Trying to think, actually, was that Drew Lock? No, it was Geno Smith. Lamar, in their last game, he went over all of his props. He absolutely destroyed them. So, and then the receivers have had a lot of success. Tight ends have had a bit of success. So, and the pass-catching running backs for receptions. So the linebackers for the Niners have struggled against pass-catching running backs as far as receptions go and tight ends, and there is a correlation there. So we're going to dive into that. There's a lot of juiciness here. Let's jump to the quarterbacks now. Jared Goff, who has been playing absolutely lights out. I've got him at 242.5 for the last several weeks, and he's gone over all of those. He is getting 260 passing yards in this game. I'm staying away from that because I think it's a lot, but I would not be surprised if he hits it. Pass attempts at 36.5, and pass completions are at 23.5. And as mentioned with Brock Purdy, he's getting 275.5. My gosh, is the best number that you can get for him. That's a lot for a little Brock Purdy, but this is a great spot. The Lions, they struggle in a lot of areas, and I don't see why this, in a hostile environment on the road, will be any different. The 31.5 pass attempts, I'm also slightly interested in betting the under. He's gone over that twice in the last 3 games that he's played, I realize. But before then, basically since week 9, he just couldn't do it. So that could also be a little sneaky one. Same with completions. This is the thing about the 49ers is they take the ball and they take it to the house, and therefore they don't actually need to throw the ball a lot. They don't also need to catch the ball a lot. So Purdy is usually pretty good for unders as far as attempts and completions go. Let's jump now to the running backs. Okay, and we'll start off with Jahmyr Gibbs, one of my fantasy darlings, the leader of my dynasty team at the moment. He's been fantastic this year. What a great pickup he's been. He didn't hit his rushing props in week 17 or 18, and they were sort of trying, but where he doesn't hit it in one area, he usually makes it up in the other. So if he doesn't hit rushing, he hits receiving. If he doesn't hit receiving, he hits rushing. It's just the way it is with him. I'm not betting his receiving yards. I think Sully... Let's see what Sully has for him here. Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs over 3.5 receptions. No, thank you, Sully. Sorry, bud. 2.5 I would be okay with, but 3.5 is too rich for me. I'd rather have his receiving yards at 29.5. I'm not sure where he's got the 3.5 from. I'm looking at his lines, and he's usually getting 2.5 in most places, so I don't know why he laid 3.5. I'll have to ask him about that. I'm seeing a line for Jahmyr Gibbs on his rushing of 45 over on PointsBet. So if you're looking at PointsBet in Australia or Canada, the 45.5 rushing line is really, really tasty. I'm going to be laying a lot into that line. Like, there's nothing that suggests the Niners are going to be able to stop the run in any capacity, like when it comes to these super, super talented running backs. David Montgomery's been utilized less and less. We saw the first half of the season, he was going over all of his lines. The second half, he's going under a lot of them, except for week 15. But basically, outside of that, he's gone under all of them, and he's getting 66.5 rushing yards. You'd almost want to take the under there and the over on Jahmyr Gibbs. I think it's pretty clear. So Jahmyr Gibbs over 46.5 rushing yards. Lock that one in, please, and thank you. Christian McCaffrey is in a very good spot, though. So his rushing yards sitting around 85.5 to 90. That might be a bit rich for my blood. I'm actually going to be looking at his receiving yards, which is sitting between 35 and 40. And that's a lot. But this is Christian McCaffrey. He pretty much does it week in and week out. I'm not too scared. It's only ever sat around 25.5, his receiving prop line. He usually has a good go at it there as well. He usually is good for about at least 4 catches as well. So I'm not going to bet 4.5 over reception because there's a chance he might go under. But with those 4 catches, I mean, he usually takes them and runs with it. And then same with scrimmage as well. You could pile those together if you're not sure. And scrimmage would probably also be pretty safe. But this is a great spot for Christian McCaffrey. Any way you want to shake it. So my first preference is over 35.5 receiving yards. My second preference is over 85.5 rushing yards. And then my third, of course, is the scrimmage because you have to add 5 yards usually. And we'll finish off with the receivers. So Amon-Ra St. Brown has had a really fantastic season. He's been one of the most electric receivers that we've seen come on in recent times. And for a 4th-round pick, the Lions have got to be stoked about it. They've got Jamison Williams as well, who has been good. He's been productive. He hasn't necessarily hit over his props, but he's still been fairly productive when the ball has come his way. And then big Sam Laporta, who saw this coming, he's been fantastic. So Amon-Ra's getting about 85.5 receiving yards, 81 receiving yards. Yeah, 85. 85.5 receiving yards. It's a lot. It's the most he's had all season, but he has been very consistent. If he can actually get 6.5 receptions, I'd go with that because he's had at least 6 in every game since week 15. So over 6.5 receptions is good. If it gets down to 80.5 receiving, then I'm more likely to take it there. Jamison Williams, at least 2 catches. He's been good for that every week since week 15 as well. So that's another angle you could look at. He usually has about 40.5 receiving yards. It's a big number because he usually is more of a downfield threat, and I don't see that happening too much in this game. I don't like him to get to 3 catches, but the 2 is a good spot there. And then Sam Laporta, I had mentioned at the top of the show that the 49ers have been giving it up a little bit to the tight ends of all areas. And this is where I think that Sam Laporta could have a really good game. Depends on the injury. I mean, he looked fantastic last week against the Bucks. There was no slowing him down there. But yeah, this should be an interesting area for him. It's getting about 49.5 receiving yards, all 4.5 receptions. I personally would probably take the receiving. No, I'd take the receptions. He's hit those more often than not as opposed to the receiving yards. So lean receptions with the tight end, Sam Laporta. And let's finish with the 49ers receivers. So I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, who will play, and George Kittle. I mentioned at the top of the show as well, Brandon Ayuk has got a huge number for his receiving yards. Yeah, it's going to sit around, the lowest you can get is 78. And that's the highest it's been for him all season long. And then similarly with George Kittle, he's getting 60.5 receiving yards. And that's the most it's been for him as well, by a country mile. So these are two really, really high lines. I'm still not afraid of them. I still really like them. I just think Detroit's defense has been that bad. They're playing at home. Purdy's got to hit about 275 for his passing yards, and it's got to go somewhere. I think with Deebo being a little bit injured and are they going to rely on Chris Conley? Sure, for 1 or 2 catches. Christian McCaffrey will be thrown in there as well. But I still think that this is a really good spot for them to be able to grab one of these, quick passes over the middle and then just takes it to the house. So give me George Kittle over 60.5 receiving and Brandon Ayuk. Oh, gee. If you have to, then you can. Also from this game, Sully has Christian McCaffrey over 14.5 receiving yards for the longest reception. So one catch will be over 14.5 receiving yards. Given that his line is 35.5 receiving yards, yes, that's probably a really good bet that one of those passes is going to go fairly far. Okay, let's recap this ticket now. So we have Brock Purdy over 274 passing yards. Oh, can't believe it. Jahmyr Gibbs over 45.5 rushing yards. Yes, please. Christian McCaffrey over 34.5 receiving yards. Oh, that's a lot, but okay, we'll do it. Brandon Ayuk over 78.5 receiving yards. That's a lot. I don't love it, but it's there. And George Kittle over 60.5 receiving yards. That is a lot, but I do like that. So I'm okay with that line there. So that's going to do it for our conference championship breakdown. Should be some fantastic games. I'm looking forward to watching them. 49ers. I think I'm taking the 49ers at -7. I do think that they can get there, even though I think the lines will keep it competitive. And the 52.5, I like it going over that. I think it would be really cool if it does. Conditions should be good for that. If you're still watching this, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, that really helps us out. And follow us on Instagram, first and foremost, and TikTok and Twitter as well. Wow, how long have I been talking to straight now? I've been talking for 30 minutes straight. Okay. We'll catch you with one last NFL episode. It's going to be our Super Bowl preview. It's also going to come in 2 weeks because there will be no games next week. So after that, remember, you can still check us out with Sully's Hockey. And then come early March, so late Feb, early March, I'm going to start doing some shows and we'll get into footy season. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for what we're doing. The content's going to roll and we had a really, really fantastic first year. You'll catch Sully and I next fortnight, yes. Until then, enjoy the games. Good luck. We'll see you then.